there is something dramatically different about the science that the general public is not allowed to know about. From schools and hospitals to the military-industrial complex that Dwight Eisenhower warned us about in his National Farewell Address of 1961 has substantially grown in the lack of disclosure to the public advancements in physics, energy, and health. As a second grader, I recall being asked, "Where do you see yourself in 10 years?" Which I had always dreamed of flying cars and crafts ever since our field trip to the planetarium at the Pink Palace, to which made me get my first telescope to look for the moon, Mars, and even Venus and Jupiter. The disclosure of the profound implications of advanced technology and the inability to access black budget covert programs that fuel the military-industrial complex without congressional oversight poses a larger threat to our right than we realize. On a national level, our constitutional rights have universally undermined the advanced technologies that could have been revolutionary for cures and fuelless renewable energy sources. At an AEI meeting in May 1888, Nikola Tesla delivered a lecture on a new alternating current transformer because, as reported by the World History Project, ownership of the rights to the Tesla patent was a key advantage of the Westinghouse Company in offering a complete alternating current power system for both lighting and power. During the end of my informative speech, I introduced the work of Dr. Royal Raymond Rife, whose invention was clinically proven to cure the cancers and viruses of 16 terminally ill patients with a technique he established to be known as coordinated resonance. But his work was destroyed, a lawsuit was filed against him, and Morris Fishburne, head of the Journal of the American Medical Association, discredited him. According to the article, Invention Secrecy by the Federation of American Scientists, whenever disclosure of an invention is deemed to be detrimental to national security, a secrecy order may be imposed on the patent application, preventing its public exposure and blocking issuance of the patent. Stanley Allen Myers' water-powered car of 1994 could have been revolutionary for converting from oil to water as fuel. However, oil is owned by the same businesses, which made his invention a threat to their financial stability. As we move on, you'll be able to see for yourself the specific harm that is involved in presenting one's own intellectual property, because those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. As stated by Halim's article of Nikola Tesla's Dark Secret, in 1904, Tesla, determined to see his idea come to fruition, wrote with absolute certainty that when wireless is fully applied to the earth, it will be converted into a huge brain, capable of response in every one of its parts. But the lack of cash proved the project's death, leading to the ultimate downfall of one of the greatest inventors of our time, a megalomaniac that believed in all or nothing. Dr. Rife was to medical optics what Tesla was to physics. For his microscopic radio frequency waves, or known as resonant frequency, which in the opinion of the Integrative Medical Center, a black tie banquet was held to honor Rife and celebrate the end of all disease. Less than 15 years later, however, none of those people at that dinner would even admit to knowing Rife, who would be left in poverty with his career ruined. His 5 microscopes would be confiscated, along with many of his records, and the 2 known beam ray machines in existence.
It's been billions.
And there's one person who firmly believes he's beaten the rest of the world to it. Behind these garage doors in Ohio lies, allegedly, the world's first water-powered car, the creation of amateur inventor Stanley Mayer.
This dune buggy operates around 65 miles per hour on around 60 miles per gallon of water. It's very efficient, as opposed to running on gasoline. One time I was offered well over $1 billion in cold cash to buy out the technology, to suppress it. Of course, my interest is to get it into the economies of the world and do it very quickly. We've developed the technology over the years, and we've legalized the technology, and now what we're trying to do is coordinate with industry to design a kit that can be fitted to an existing internal combustion engine, whether it's a gasoline engine or even a diesel engine.
His kit is not unlike a cold fusion cell, but with very high voltages applied. Skeptics believe it's no more than a battery storage device, but millionaire is paying to have it all checked out in a secret lab in Boston. Although the car wasn't running when we came to film, pictures were taken earlier by the local TV station.
In more modern times, Stanley Allen Meyer's death is shrouded in a mysterious conspiracy. While meeting with 2 NATO agents and his brother, the autopsy claimed he had a brain aneurysm after taking a sip of cranberry juice from the restaurant, where police reports announced he ran outside exclaiming, "They poisoned me." Despite the fact there are already laws and order in place, they should be pure public or self-regulating into the protection of one's intellectual property, that I'll continue forward to reiterate. Nikola Tesla's coils was his greatest attempt to introduce electromagnetics and electrical free energy, which is represented in every cubic square times square that's equivalent to the 26th power, meaning the empty space energy in a coffee cup could be enough energy to boil all the oceans on Earth. And certainly Dr. Schwenk and Bearden's proof of free energy devices explain. The principles presented are parallel to those discussed by Bearden, and also those suggested by Nikola Tesla, whose theory and practice of energy transmission was clearly based on ether concepts. Similar to Tesla's high-voltage electrotherapy, Dr. Wright's machine sparked of Dr. James Bayer's patent resonant frequency therapy in 1996, or the Wright-Bayer device, which Dr. Holland recently demonstrates. When I added the 11th harmonic, I looked through the microscope and discovered the microorganism had shattered. It reminded me of how a crystal glass shatters when a soprano hits just the right note. Currently, we have no clue that every year our tax money is purposely used to fund black budget covert operations for the industrial complex, military complex, as funded by the Lockheed Skunk Works director Ben Rich, also known as the father of stealth, who was responsible for developing the F-117, the first stealth aircraft. But few people will or can speak out about the programs for reverse engineering advanced propulsion systems, except for Robert Lazar in Las Vegas of 1989. As individuals, we must take some of the following steps in order to progress technology beyond big oil companies, banks, and the military, so that we can produce more peaceful, positive, resourceful mechanisms for us and our Earth. As advised by Forbes, effective ways to protect your intellectual property. Don't file patents, because filing them provides the recipe of how a product or service can be created, which gives others a platform to create your invention with workarounds to not violate the rights. This is the most uncommon way to protect your ideas, even though it is seen as the first step. The patent of Dr. Bayer's Wright-Bayer device brings to light the evolution of suppressed advanced technology facilitated as a way to eliminate certain diseases by turning the frequency to match it, as described in Dr. Holland's experiments against leukemia, ovarian and pancreatic cancer cells, which could bring forth a new age in medical sciences that could change lives. Bob Lazar's Area 51 and Flying Saucers is a documentary that reintroduces the whistleblower to the Nellis Air Force Base S4 classification in Las Vegas, Nevada, to the point where his only assurance was to go public about the experiments that he was interacting with, where reporters were actually confirming places, people, and things, and even events taking place now that he described almost 30 years ago, including test piloting of UFOs over Papoose Lake every Wednesday, to the FBI raid of his business in search for the element 115, now a man-made element that he was once suspected of having. Many of us will go about our daily lives, not knowing what life used to be like or what it could be like, if the same motivation we apply to sports, hobbies, or recreations could be used to progress the technology of our world. There are many scientists, physicists, and engineers working on revolutionary technology, but they lack the funds. That's where we come in. Even though there is a mediopoly hell-bent on controlling everything we read and watch, with the internet and convolutions of specific groups that draws the attention of the public on subjects long forgotten, we must not give up on the possibility of a revolution. Tesla's coils could have changed the source of free energy forever, yet his lack of resources was his downfall. Dr. Wright's microscopes could have cured diseases and cancers, but at the cost of big business pharmaceutical companies. And finally, Mayer's water fuel cell was a cry for change. However, his brilliance was snuffed out, taking his secret to the grave.